by government really can affect your economic well-being. Yeah, in real life, in real world, you for sure, regardless of who you are, you can be affected by so many different types of government policies, right? For example, taxation policies. Even you guys, right? You guys are just you guys are just a students, but you as a consumer, for sure, you can be affected by, for example, taxation policies, right? For example, you need to pay in real life when you buy something, you need to pay something called the sales tax, right? We live in Vancouver, so if you buy something, you need to pay GST and the PST to BC government and the Canadian federal government, right? You guys know what is a sales tax, right? Like for example, in Vancouver, the total sales tax could be it's a 12%. It's a 12%. So if you buy something, for example, if the price is $100, but when you check out, you need to pay total like $112, because you need to pay extra 12% of your total consumption amount to government. So this is also called sales tax, right? So you can be affected by economic policy for sure. Okay, but this week we will, yeah, basically we want to evaluate how an economic policy really can affect your economic well-being. Yeah, this is a called welfare analysis. But before we do welfare analysis, today we need to come up a new method for measuring what is your current happiness level, welfareness level. Yeah, so then after that, then we can kind of measure, then we can count like how economic policy can either increase or decrease your economic well-being. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, you guys can you can turn to next page. Okay, in page number 2. So we will learn a new method, a new way for measuring your current happiness level. Earlier in the first week, we already learned one way, for measuring your current happiness level. In the first week, we just use like numerical values, right? In the first week, we already learned like one simple way for measuring what is your current happiness level. We just use numerical values. Like in first week, we learned, okay, if you buy a hamburger, so how I can measure how much happiness you can get from a hamburger? I just use a number, okay, something called 10, right? So how much happiness you can get from a hamburger? How much happiness you can get from a hamburger? Just a 10. So you see, I just use a number, just use a numerical value for measuring how much happiness you can get from a hamburger. Okay, so in real life, you can buy maybe another thing called sandwich. So this time, how much happiness you can get from a sandwich? So this time maybe equals to 8. You see, this is a way we learned in the first week for measuring how much happiness you can get, right? But today, okay, in order to do something called the welfare analysis, we just need to learn a new method, but the same kind of purpose for measuring how much happiness you can get from our market system, okay, from the economic system. Okay, how I measure the happiness today? By doing something called calculating economic surplus. Okay, so what is economic surplus? Let's say in this box, let's build a market system here. It basically just a basic supply and demand model. Okay, let's draw this graph together. So you build a coordinating system here, and then for sure you need to have your supply curve and the demand curve. Maybe this is a Vancouver bubble tea market. Okay, supply curve and the demand curve. We will label the horizontal line by quantity. We label the horizontal axis by price. And you find the intersection here. Intersection here can be labeled as E. E means market equilibrium. So the corresponding price level can be labeled as by P star. So let's see, this one is $5. Okay, so this intersection we can do $9. And this intersection, maybe we can do $1. Okay, how many units can be traded in market? So these variables can be called as equilibrium quantity. So equals to 30 units. Okay, this is called Vancouver bubble tea market. And now the equilibrium price is $5. Okay, next step, I just plot 2 points. I just add down 2 points on this and make them lies on this dimension. I just add on 2 points here, and the whole dimension is about consumer, about those consumers, right? So this 2 point, so actually can represent 2 individual consumers. So imagine a individual consumer here, okay, standing at this point. Okay, so another little guy, and also is a consumer standing at here. Okay, so 2 points represent 2 individual consumers. Okay, both these 2 consumers want to buy something called bubble tea, because this is a Vancouver's bubble tea market. Okay, so both these 2 consumers want to buy something called bubble tea. But what is the difference? What is the difference between these 2 consumers? So let's find out what is the difference between these 2 consumers. You just add some dot line here. Kind of you find the corresponding price level. And this price level is something called WTP. Okay, it's a new term here, WTP. So what do you mean by what is a WTP? WTP is called willingness to pay. Okay, WTP, what do I mean by WTP? WTP is called willingness to pay. For short, it just can be called as WTP. Yeah, willingness to pay. What is a willingness to pay? Willingness to pay is the highest level, highest price level you are willing to pay for a product. Okay, as a consumer, you want to buy something, right? Be more specific, in this market, you want to buy bubble tea. But before you purchase a bubble tea, okay, you need to estimate based on your personal preference level. You need to estimate, you need to think about what is the highest price level you are willing to pay for a unit of a bubble tea. Okay, totally up to you. Okay, if you really, really like a bubble tea, you are willing to pay a higher price for a bubble tea. If you don't like a bubble tea, your WTP is a lower number. Okay, just based on your personal preference, just based on personal idea, okay, you can estimate, you can set, okay, the highest level you are willing to pay for the product. Okay, and this definition in field of economics can be called as, once again, WTP. Okay, so what is the WTP for these two consumers? Okay, let's see. Okay, this guy is willing to pay, let's say, $8 for a unit of a bubble tea. And another one, okay, another customer here is willing to pay, he or she is willing to pay, let's say, $7. Okay, because this point is vertically is lower than this point. So this one is $8, this one is $7. Okay, and the next step, my question is, if you are willing to pay $8 and the actual price you need to pay is $5. So my question is, will you actually buy the product? If you are willing to pay 8, you are willing to pay 8. Okay, let's make it clear here. Okay, $8 is totally different from $5. $8 determined by yourself, determined by your personal preference level. Okay, you can decide how much money you are willing to pay. But the $5, once again, is called equilibrium price, and the equilibrium price is determined by the supply curve and the demand curve. It's determined by the market system. Okay, so my question is, you are willing to pay $8 and the actual price is $5. So in that case, will you actually buy the product, yes or no? Yes or no? The answer should be yes, right? Yeah, really easy, really simple question. The answer should be yes, because you are willing to pay 8. Okay, and the actual price you need to pay is 5. So for sure, you will buy the product, right? You will buy the product. And after your purchase, you kind of can get some extra happiness. Okay, what do I mean by extra happiness? You will feel like, oh, I can save $3 for myself. This can make you like very happy because you are willing to pay 8, but actually the price only is 5. So you feel like, oh, I can save $3 for myself. Okay, this is really the source of your kind of so-called extra happiness. You feel like very happy. You can save $3 for yourself. And this is $3. Okay, really is a vertical difference. Really is like the vertical space, the difference between the WTP, between your WTP and the actual price you need to pay. Okay, so you see here, the vertical space here is a $3. Okay, you can save $3 for yourself. Okay, and the vertical space here is called individual consumer surplus. Okay, this is called individual consumer surplus. Okay, is the real fear, is the benefit, is something can make you happy. Okay, so this definition is called consumer surplus. Okay, be more specific, is called individual consumer surplus because this is a surplus received by the happiness received by this individual consumer who is willing to pay $8 for the product. Okay, for no questions, the next step, view another consumer here. Okay, will this guy actually buy the product? Yes or no? The first consumer will buy the product because the first consumer is willing to pay 8 and the WTP is higher the price. What about the second consumer here? No. Somebody say no. Yes or no? This time you are willing to pay $7, but the actual price you need to pay is 5. So should you buy the product? Yes or no? Yes, yeah. Should be yes, right? Because you are willing to pay 7, but the actual price is 5. So you still should buy the product, right? And you also this time you also can get something, can get the kind of the actual happiness. Cause you feel like, oh, I can save $2 for myself. Okay, so this vertical space here is the actual happiness. Professionally speaking, is called consumer surplus. Individual consumer surplus received by the second consumer. Okay, both these two consumers will actually buy the product. The only difference is if your WTP is higher, you can get much more individual consumer surplus. Yeah, totally is $3. But if your WTP is lower initially, then you can get a lower level individual consumer surplus. But both these two consumers will buy the product. What about this one? What about this one in the intersection? Okay, this guy is very special, right? This guy. So why the consumer here is very special? Because he or she has the highest level preference for bubble tea. And this guy is willing to pay $9. Okay, this guy is willing to pay $9 for a bubble tea. And the next step, will this guy actually buy the product? For sure, yes, right? This time you are willing to pay $9, and actually you only need to pay $5. So this guy with the highest WTP can get a highest level, so-called individual consumer surplus. And how big is the individual consumer surplus that can be received by this consumer? So 9 minus 5 is $4. $4, right? $9 minus $5 equals $4. Okay, then the next step, we add one more consumer into our model. Okay, now the consumer is standing at the intersection of a supply curve, demand curve. So basically, it's the market equilibrium point. So also my question, okay, everybody try to answer my question. Will this guy actually buy the product? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah, that's right. Because this consumer is also kind of special, right? Because you are willing to pay 5, you are willing to pay 5 compared with another 3 consumers. And now you kind of the preference of a bubble tea is lower, so you only are willing to pay $5 for a bubble tea. But the right price, but the actual price you need to pay is $5. So in this case, you still buy the product. You will still buy the product, but the problem is you cannot get a kind of the actual happiness because you are willing to pay 5 and the actual price you need to pay is $5. Okay, so the transaction still can be happening here. I mean, you still buy the product, but you cannot get the extra individual consumer surplus. And the individual consumer surplus received by this consumer is 0. Okay, but still you will buy the product. Okay, and the next question is, will this consumer, will this point buy the product? Yes or no? Will those points like beyond the equilibrium point, like lie on the lower half part of your demand curve? Will this consumer actually buy the product? Yes or no? No, what is the reason? Why these consumers they actually want to buy the product? What is the reason?
Because they don't like bubble tea.
Because they don't like bubble tea. That's right. Because their WTP even lower than the actual price you need to pay. Okay, for example, maybe this guy maybe is only willing to pay $4. The maximum price you are willing to pay is $4, but actually you need to pay 5. Okay, so all these consumers, once again, they will not buy the product. Okay, so by doing this, okay, actually you can better understand like why the highest level transaction, what is the highest number of can be traded in the market is here. Okay, cause beyond this quantity line, okay, this area actually is the area where the transaction cannot be happened. Okay, because all these consumers they are only willing to pay. Their WTP is lower than the actual price they need to pay. Okay, next step, we connect. Okay, we connect all the individual consumer surplus received by those people who actually buy the product together. Okay, once again, I'm saying we connect all the individual consumer surplus received by those consumers who actually will buy the product together. Okay. Like individual consumer surplus is a vertical space, yeah, between your WTP and the actual price you pay. So I connect all these individual consumer surplus together. Okay, to get an area, right? To get an area, and this area, this triangle area, shaded area, is called the total market consumer surplus. Market consumer surplus. We add up all individual consumer surplus. Okay, we connected all this vertical space together to get this area. And this area is called the total market consumer surplus. Okay, representing the total happiness received by all the consumers who actually will buy the product, will buy the bubble tea. Okay, but for those consumers who didn't buy the product, they receive nothing. Okay, because no consumption, no happiness. In the field of economics, the only way to increase your happiness level is by purchasing something. Okay, so now you get this shaded area. Now it's a triangle area. And for sure, let's see number 8 here. You can calculate how big is the triangle area, right? I guess all you guys know like how to calculate a triangle area. So how big is the area? $60. Okay, because you do $9 minus $5. Okay, this is the height of this triangle times the base. how big is the base? The base is 30 units. So height times the base divided by 2. So how big is the area? $60. Okay, how we interpret this number $60? So that is the total level of happiness versus $60 and received by the consumers, all the consumers who actually will buy the product. Okay, and this is a whole area, shaded area, blue area. Once again, it's called the consumer surplus, market consumer surplus. Okay, this is the first part of the story. Another part of the story is now we take a look, have a look for the supply curve. So if I add points on demand curve can represent consumers, then similarly change in another color. If I plot points on supply curve, and these points can represent producers. As a consumer, you estimate what is the highest level, price level you are willing to pay. But as a producer at this time, before you produce your products, sell your products, you need to estimate like what is your bottom line. Okay, what do I mean by bottom line? Okay, bottom line, I mean you need to estimate your lowest price level you are willing to accept. Okay, so a producer here. Okay, and they are producing something called a bubble tea. They are supply bubble tea into this market. So what is the bottom line price for the first consumer? So because this one is a $1, so this one can let's say $2. Okay, if the lowest price you are willing to accept for producing, for selling your products is $2, but the actual price you can receive is $5. You see, once again, you can get something kind of the extra happiness. You are willing to accept $2, but the actual price you can get is $5. So you will be very happy. Why? Why you can be very happy? Cause you feeling like, oh, today I can make $3 more. I can make extra $3. You see, so you can get something called happiness. So you can get something called individual producer surplus. Okay, so this vertical space is here. Okay, it's called individual producer surplus. Now, how big is the individual producer surplus now for specifically for this individual producer? So 5 minus $2 is $3. So $5 minus $2 is $3. And for sure, this producer will sell their product, right? Will the second producer sell the product? Yes or no? Okay, if the bottom line price now is $3. Okay, another producer here also is producing bubble tea, and the bottom line price is $3. Will the second producer actually sell and produce the bubble tea? Yes or no? Yes, right? Because the bottom line price, your bottom line price, the lowest price you are willing to accept is $3, but actually you can get $5, right? So you will actually do the production. You will actually supply the bubble tea to the market. Okay, but this time, the only difference is this time the individual producer surplus is lower. Okay, because you have a higher kind of a bottom line price. So this one is $2. Okay, the producer with the lowest level. Okay, the producer with the lowest level bottom line price can get highest level individual customer surplus, producer surplus. So $5 minus $1. So this one is $4. Okay, what about the producer standing at the market equilibrium point? Will the producer actually produce the bubble tea? Yes or no? Should be yes, right? Because this time the lowest price you are willing to accept is $5, and actually you can get $5. So you still will do the production. Okay, but you cannot get any producer surplus. Yeah, you don't have you cannot get the so-called extra happiness, but still you will do the production. Okay, next step. What about these producers? Will they actually do the production? Yes or no? Will the producer actually do the production, guys? No, right? So what is the reason?
Too expensive.
Too expensive. Yeah, very close. So the reason is their bottom, yeah, their bottom line price is too expensive. Yeah, their bottom line price, the lowest price they are willing to accept, even higher than the actual prices they can get from the market system. Okay, so these producers, once again, all those points, like beyond the equilibrium point, lie on the higher level, higher half a part of the supply curve. They will not produce anything because their bottom line price is even higher than the than the price actual prices they can get. Okay, so they will do nothing. They will produce nothing. Okay, then the last step. Okay, very similar as we did here. Okay, we connect all the individual producer surplus. We connect all the individual producer surplus together. Okay, to get this whole area, this triangle area. Okay, this is a so-called total market. Yeah, this is a called market producer surplus. Producer. Okay. And the B here, yeah, we also can calculate how big is the total producer surplus, right? Once again, you just calculate the area of this shaded area. So $5 minus $1, so $4. Kind of is the height of this triangle. And the base still is $30. So $4 times 30 units divided by 2. Yeah, because we are calculating an area of a triangle. So you need to do the division divided by 2. So how big is the area? $60. So once again, how I interpret it, how we really understand what is the $60 here. So that means the total happiness level. Okay, total happiness level can be received by the producer who actually will produce the product. It's the $60. Okay, and it's called market producer surplus. Okay, so far any questions? So far any questions? Okay, if no questions, then let's move on. Let's move on to notes number 5. And if you add up two triangle areas together, okay, if you add up a producer surplus and a consumer surplus together, you can get something called economic surplus. Okay, economic surplus also can be called as a social welfare. Okay, total social welfare. Okay, just means the total happiness level received by all market participants. So currently we only have two different kinds of people in the market system, either consumers and the producers. Consumers can receive consumer surplus. Producers can receive something called the producer surplus. You just add them together. It's called a total social welfare. Also can be called as a total economic surplus. And as a total economic surplus, you just add up $60 and $60 together. So the total social welfare now is $120. Okay, one more word before we do the welfare analysis. Okay, number B is super important. Okay, when we can reach to the market equilibrium point. Okay, when we actually can find the market equilibrium point, when the market system can reach to the market equilibrium point, the total surplus has been maximized. Okay, B and C kind of is the same thing, right? If a market equilibrium point here means that the total surplus has been maximized, then you can understand what is the C here. So that means if you, due to whatever the reason, if we cannot reach to the market equilibrium, when you have something called market disequilibrium, in notes number 2, we learned two situations that can be called as a market disequilibrium. So namely is a surplus or shortage. Because in market equilibrium, QS equal to QD, supply curve equals to demand curve. So in market equilibrium, there's no surplus and no shortage. But if you have market disequilibrium, you either got something called a surplus, you either got something called a shortage. So when you have market disequilibrium, that means that the total surplus isn't at the maximum level. Okay, next step. If the total surplus isn't at its maximum level, okay, that means you are losing the part of a social welfare. So this losing part, okay, so the losing part in the field of economics, professionally speaking, is called the deadweight loss. Okay, I will show you guys examples. Okay, let's finish up with D here. So I already mentioned what is a welfare analysis, right? The real thing, really the thing I want to do today is called a welfare analysis. What is a welfare analysis again? We want to evaluate, we want to figure out how an economic policy really can affect your surplus, really can affect your happiness level. So we will see, can a economic surplus increase your happiness or decrease your happiness? Okay, so this kind of analysis, okay, is called a welfare analysis. Okay, so let's do our first example here. Okay, we already learned something called an economic policy, something called the price floor from notes number, I guess notes number 2. Do I need to send the class notes to the chat box again? Does everybody have notes number 4 on hand? Okay, we don't have class notes in. Okay, you can get class notes in our chat box. Okay, let's quickly build a supply and demand model with a price floor. Yeah, hopefully you guys still remember how we draw a price floor graph. Can somebody tell me how I can draw a price floor? Where I should add on my price floor? Where I should add my price floor? Why, as a government, you want to do something called the price floor? Do you want to increase the price or lower the price? Increase or decrease? Yeah, somebody show me we should. You raise your hand means we should increase the price, right? Yeah, we should increase. Yeah, the purpose of adding a price floor policy. Okay, just like the minimum wage policy, right? My example was the minimum wage policy. You want to increase the wage standard, yeah, even for those lower for those lower income household. Yeah, so we want to increase the price. Okay, so I add a horizontal line here. I label this one by price floor. Okay, to set a binding price floor policy to make sure as a government to make sure the price floor policy is above, is higher than the like original equilibrium point. So the positive side, okay, so the positive side of this policy, positive effect of this policy, yes, as a government, yeah, you can make those people who actually can find a job, making more money. But don't forget the negative side, so-called secondary effect of this policy. If you raise this wage standard, so more and more people now are willing to find a job. So the quantity supplied of labor, you see based on law of supply here, increases. But don't forget all those employers, what's their response? How they respond to this policy? They actually will lay off laborers. I mean, quantity demanded of labor here decreases. Okay, because the human resource cost is so expensive. As a producer, we want to save our money. So maybe you will lay off some laborers. So what happened here actually is the quantity supplied greater than quantity demand. So the gap, so the difference between, once again, quantity supplied here and the quantity demanded here is called surplus. Okay, let's make it clear here. Okay, surplus and economic surplus, these are totally two different terms. consumer surplus and surplus, these are totally two different terms, okay? So surplus, if I just say surplus, okay, just one word surplus means a QS greater than QD. But if I say consumer surplus, it refers to the happiness received by consumer. If I say producer surplus is happiness can be received by the producer. Okay, so consumer surplus and surplus, these are totally two different terms. Okay, then the next step. So before I add a policy, how many units can be traded in market? So labeled by Q star is here. After I add a producer floor, no. If after I do price of floor, how many units can be traded in market? Increase or decrease? After I add on price of floor policy, can this market trade more quantity or lower level quantity? So the answer should be lower level quantity, right? So if I label this one by Q star number one, after add the price of floor policy, yeah, the actual quantity can be traded in the market actually will decrease. So decrease from Q number one to Q number two. Okay, so this is the graph. Okay, in order to do the verify analysis, we just we add some labels. We label all these areas. So what do I mean? I label this area by A. This square is called B. This part is a C. This one is D. This one is E. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, after you add on all these labels, then we can try these questions. Okay, just use these labelings. Okay, let's try to answer all these questions. Question number A. Question number A. Question number A is about the situation before you do the policy, right? Before you do the policy. Before the policy, which labels represent total consumer surplus? Imagine you still is still the market is a free market economy. Yeah, before we add on price of floor, where is the consumer surplus? ABC, that's right. So we fill this one by A plus B plus C. Where is the producer surplus? So if A, B, C is called total market consumer surplus, then what is where is the producer surplus? Yeah, producer surplus for sure is a DNE. So how you define where is the consumer surplus? Remember this, okay? Consumer surplus, okay, should be an area below the demand curve, below the demand curve, right? Below this demand curve, but above the market price line. But above market price line. And on the left-hand side of the quantity, on the left-hand side of the quantity line. Okay, let's see this again. Consumer surplus is an area. Okay, bounded by demand curve, market price line, and the quantity line. Okay, so it's ABC. Then where is the producer surplus? A producer surplus is an area below, this time is below the market price line, above the supply curve, and on the left-hand side of the quantity line. So it's a DNE. Do we have a deadweight loss? Yeah, before we do the policy, I mentioned if we can reach to this market equilibrium point, we do not have any surplus, we do not have any shortage. This market by themselves, okay, we can reach to the market equilibrium point. Do we have any deadweight loss? Yes or no? Are we losing any part of a total social welfare? Yes or no? On page number 2, question B, I said here. So if you can reach to the market equilibrium point, that means the total surplus has been maximized. If a total economic surplus has been maximized, that means do we have any deadweight loss? Okay, the answer here is no. Okay, so this is a question A. Question A once again is about the situation, yeah, before we add the price of floor. Okay, the next part we do that, we do question B. Question B is about the situation after we add on price of floor policy here. Okay, so this group a little bit harder, yeah. Where is the consumer surplus after we add the price of floor? Can somebody try? If we add the price of floor here, and it's a binding price of floor policy, where is the consumer surplus? Yeah, only part A. Totally right. Yeah. Once again, how we find the consumer surplus? The consumer surplus is the area below the demand curve, above the market price line. But the problem is now the market price line has been changed, has been raised to up to here. Okay, the market price line no longer is here, but here. Okay, it's a higher level market price line. Because this is the minimum price regulated by government. It can be traded within this market. Okay, so the consumer surplus area above the market price line, lower the demand curve. On the left-hand side of a quantity, the number of quantity can be traded also has been lowered. Okay, above this demand curve, above this market price line, on the left-hand side of the quantity line, so only area A. Okay, but the B here is super special, it's super important. Okay, where is the producer surplus? Can somebody try? Does anyone know where is the producer surplus now? After price of floor policy? Somebody see B, C, D. Any other ideas? So somebody see B, C, D. Don't forget, oh, it is just a B and D. That's right. That's right. Just a B and D. The reason is that the actual quantity can be traded in market has been lowered, right? No transaction can be happen in this area. If no transaction, if actually no transaction happening here, nobody can receive anything. Okay, so the producer surplus now just is B and D. That's right. Okay, so so A has it taken by consumer, B and D has it taken by producer. So where is the C and E? What happened for C and E? They just disappear. Nobody can get a C and E. Because I mentioned, yeah, the quantity has been lowered. So actually no transaction can be happening here after we add this policy. So C and E has gone. Yeah, they just disappear. Nobody can get a C and E. Okay, so those areas can be received by nobody. Okay, it's called deadweight loss. Yeah, basically we're just losing C and E. Okay, so deadweight loss now is called C and E. Okay, then the last step, we just do a comparison. Who can be benefited from this policy? Whose happiness level has been increased due to this policy? And whose economic surplus has been lowered? So first step, we compare the C as before the policy and after the policy. Before the policy, as a consumer, so you get A, B, C, but after the policy, you see you only can get part A. Okay, so that means you can be suffered from this policy as a producer. Okay, so you are not happy with this policy because your economic well-being has been lowered due to this policy. Okay, so you can be very angry with this policy. Who will be happy with this policy? Producers, right? Because producers, before the policy as a producer, you can get a D and E, but now you can get a B and D. You guys can see B is greater than E, right? B, area B, the additional part you can get for sure is greater than the part you lose here. Okay, so you can be very happy as a producer. You will be happy with the policy. Okay, so that means as a consumer, for whatever the reason, you want to protect the producers in this industry. Okay, but the opportunity cost to implementing this policy is you will hurt consumers and our whole society will lose C and E. Okay, but in order to protect the producer, the seller, yeah, in this market. Okay, so this is our first example. Okay, this kind of analysis. Okay, once again, it's called a welfare analysis. Once again, what is a welfare analysis? We just want to compare, we just want to evaluate how an economic policy can affect your economic well-being, either as a consumer or producer. Okay, so if no questions, let's do next one. Yeah, very similar example, but this one yeah, just is a price setting policy. Is supply, demand. Very similar, right? Very similar graph. This time, okay, so equilibrium price is here, equilibrium quantity is here. So what is a price ceiling? What is a price ceiling? Where I should add on my price ceiling policy, higher or lower? So this time for sure it's a lower, right? Because the price ceiling, that means you want to lower the price a little bit. For example, rent control. Right, my example was in your notes number 2. My example was OS Vancouver government has a BC government. If you think like the rent, monthly rent or even a 1-bedroom apartment is too high, is too expensive in Vancouver, let's say $2,000. Right? The government you want to make sure even those lower income household even can rent, at least they can rent a 1-bedroom apartment, a very basic level accommodation. Right? So you do something called a rent control. Right? You do something called the price ceiling. You want to lower the price a little bit. Okay, so the good effect, the positive effect is yes, you can make sure, yeah, if somebody really can find apartment, rent apartment, the price can be lowered. Okay, but the negative side is more and more people want to rent apartment, but the quantity supplied, you see, has been lowered. Right, some landlords, yeah, they will withdraw from the market because the price has been lowered, but the quantity demanded has been increased. So what will happen? So this part is called a shortage. Okay, this is a graph. Let's add, once again, let's add those labels. We label this one by A, this one by B, C, D, E. Okay, let's quickly fill all these blanks. Can somebody tell me how you fill the question number A? So first question is A and B, that's right. Where is the producer surplus? So C, D, E. Do we have any debt we lost before we do government intervention? No. Okay, good job. Next step, what about the situation after we add price ceiling? Where is the consumer surplus? A and C? Yeah. Where is the producer surplus? E. So where is the debt with loss? B and D. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Any questions so far? No questions? Okay, no questions. Let's move on to the second policy. Second policy, another type of policy, a little bit more complicated, but kind of same thing. So another policy we want to evaluate is called excess tax. excess tax. So what do I mean by excess tax? Excess tax is as a government, like how you it's about how you collect the tax from a business. Excess tax actually is called a per unit tax. So what do I mean by per unit tax? In real life, for those producers who produce some bad thing. So what do I mean by bad thing? For example, cigarettes, alcohol, even illegal drugs. Yeah, those are bad thing. For example, cigarettes, right? As a BC government, you don't want everybody in BC be smokers. Right, so you want to add some products and restrictions in cigarette industry. You want to reduce the quantity of the cigarettes that can be produced in BC. So what you can do, you add a producer per unit tax, so-called excess tax for those cigarettes producers. Okay, and how big is what is the size of a excess tax? $4 per unit. That means if you, as a producer, if you produce 1 unit of cigarette, you pay $4 to government. If you produce 2, you totally pay $8 to government. If you produce 3 units, you pay $12. You pay $4 for each and every unit of cigarettes you produce to government. Okay, so this is called excess tax. Okay, so let's build this graph. So once again, you have a basic supply and demand model. And this is a Vancouver cigarette market. So supply curve here, so demand curve here. Before the government intervention, so let's see the price. So let's see it's $5. How many units of a cigarette can be traded in Vancouver before any taxation policy? So 30 units. Yeah, this is a situation like before the excess tax, $9 here. Yeah, $1 here. Okay, then the next part, the next step. Okay, how I can add, how I can build, how I can model the effect of an excess tax. So if a government add on, if a government imposes like a per unit tax and the size of the tax is given by the question is $4 per unit. So which curve I should shift to represent, to show that, oh, the excess tax, the taxation policy has been added on into this market. So the answer is I should shift my supply curve to left. We learned this from your notes number 2. In notes number 2, we mentioned we learned as a producer, if you need to pay tax, higher level tax to government, what's your response? Should you produce more or less? If you produce a lot of more units, you need to pay a lot of money as a tax to government. You don't want to do that, right? So you should shift your supply curve to left, representing you are reducing the quantity you produce. You don't want to pay a lot of tax to government. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's shift our supply curve to left. You shift your supply curve parallelly to left. and we label the second supply curve by supply plus tax. At the same time, keep in mind, you need to make sure the vertical space, the vertical distance between your parallelly to supply curve exactly equal to the size of tax. Okay, so what do I mean? The vertical distance between two supply curves exactly equal to the size of tax. So what is the size of tax given by the question again? $4 per unit. You see in my graph, the vertical space between two supply curves exactly equal to 4. Because this intersection here is a $1. Okay, after the shifting, you see the intersection is a $5. So what is the vertical space between these two parallel two lines? $4. 5 minus 1 equals to 4. Okay, and we label this one by E number 1, the first equilibrium, and the second one, center intersection, is equilibrium number 2. Okay, then the next question is, before we add a policy, before we add this taxation policy, as a consumer, you need to pay $5. You need to pay $5 of cigarettes. I mean, per unit. My question is, what is the after-tax price you need to pay? After this policy, how many units, how much money you need to pay for cigarettes? Some people say $9, right? Some of you may think, okay, the new price should be $9. Because initially the price, the original price is $5. And now government add on like a tax $4. So 5 plus 4 equals to 9. Is that right? The answer is no. Okay, this is not accounting class, guys. Guys, this is not accounting class. We do not calculate price in that way, like a 5 plus 4 equals to 9. In economic class, remember this. In economic class, price always determined by supply curve and demand curve. Every time when you need to find the equilibrium price for something, you need to find where is the supply curve, where is the demand curve. And you find the intersection, and you find the market equilibrium point, and the corresponding price, okay, is the price. Is the market equilibrium price. Okay, so now the market equilibrium is E number 2. You see the corresponding price level for sure is not $9. Is it $9? Because the $9 is here. Okay, so this one, let's say, is $7. Okay, and we call this $7. This price level specifically is called the consumer price. So what do you mean by consumer price? I mean, after the policy, after this taxation policy, as a consumers, if you still want to buy those smokers as a consumers, if you still want to buy cigarettes, you need to pay 7 instead of $5. But now you need to pay 7. Yeah, 7 is called consumer price. Okay, next question. Among these $7, okay, imagine you are a producer, you are the seller. Okay, by selling 1 unit of cigarette, you actually can receive $7 from a consumer. Can you keep all $7? Yes or no? Can you keep all $7 received from a customer? Yes or no? No, right? Because now you need to pay tax to government. Like a government will take away $4 from this $7, right? So $7 minus $4 is $3. As a producer, now you can only keep $3 among this $7 from a customer, receive from a customer, because you need to pay $4 as a tax. So where I can find $3? So $3 is here. So this one, I label this one by 3. And the $3 can be called as a producer price. Okay, what do you mean by producer price? Okay, producer price is the amount of money, the amount of a price that can be kept by producer. Okay, because the difference between 7 and 3, $4 is a tax. Okay, it's taken away by government. So it's called a tax. How many units can be traded now in market? Initially, it's 30 units. Yeah, based on your intuition, right? If a government add taxes into cigarette industry, so the total amount can be traded. For sure, can be will reduce, right? Will reduce. So let's say 15 units. Okay, that is the graph, and finally we just like we did before, we add some labels. Yeah, this time we have so many labels: A, B, C, D, E here, F, and G. Okay, after you add on all these labels, let's turn to the next page. Yeah, you can do a lot of questions this time. Question number A from A to E, once again, is about the situation before we do the taxation policy. And somebody try A to E, how I can view A, B, C, D, E. So before we add a policy, before we add a tax, okay, the retail price of a cigarettes was $5. And how many units can be traded between the policy before the policy? 30 units. So where is the consumer surplus? Somebody say A, B, C, D. That's right. Okay, A, B, C, and D. Where's the producer surplus? E, F, G. Do we have any deadweight loss? So what is the total surplus? The total surplus is easy. You just add your consumer surplus and producer surplus together. So basically A to G, all the labels, A to G, A, B, C, D, F, G. Okay, I add this two together. Do we have a deadweight loss before government intervention? No. Okay. So let's do question 3. After policy imposed, the size of a tax, yeah, don't worry about the size of the tax. Okay, size of a tax in the real examination will be given by the question. Okay, you as a student, you don't need to calculate what is the size of tax. Okay, size of tax is given by the question. So in this example, it's $4 per unit. So consumer price, we mentioned consumer price is a 7. Producer price is the amount of money you actually can keep because you need to pay $4 to government. So 7 minus $4, now it's $3. So now where is the consumer surplus? Yeah, these two super important. Now where is the consumer surplus? Where is the consumer surplus, guys? After we add the tax, nobody want to try. A and B, somebody say A and B. Consumer surplus is that it's the area above the price, above the price. So what is the price you need to pay as a consumer? $7, right? $7. So the area above $7. So just say, that's right. Okay, next one, a little bit harder. Where's the producer surplus? Where's the producer surplus? Producer surplus is the area below the price, above the supply curve, and on the left-hand side of a quantity. So where is the producer surplus? Gee, that's right. That's right. Somebody think producer surplus B, C, E, G, right? But don't forget, as a producer now you only can keep $3. You cannot keep all $7. Okay, government will take away $4. So you cannot keep all $7. You only can keep $3. Okay, so the area below $3 above the supply curve for sure is only part G. Okay, so then where is the total tax revenue? Like which part, which labels has it taken by government? So between 3 and 7, between 3 and 7, and on the left-hand side of a quantity. So the total tax revenue now is B, C, and E. And you actually can calculate how big is the BCE. So how big is the BCE? Yeah, totally equals to, because the per unit tax is 4 times the totally now 15 units can be traded in the market. So $60. Okay, next step, be careful. Among BCE, B and C actually was the part can be received by consumers before the policy. Am I right? B, C, E, these are 3 labels. Among these 3 labels, the 3 areas, B and C was the part can be received by consumer before the tax. So B and C together can be called as a tax burden beared by consumer. Tax paid by consumer is B and C. How big is the B and C? How big is this square? So 2 times $15 is $30. So E can be called as a tax paid by producer. Okay, how big is E? $30. Okay, and totally both consumers and producer totally they paid $60 to government. So that's a question. Let's fill the last blank. Okay, where is the deadweight loss? Where is the deadweight loss? A has it taken by consumer, G has it taken by producer, D, C, E has it taken by government. So those areas can be received by nobody. Yeah, somebody say D and F. Yeah, D and F. Now it's called deadweight loss. Areas can be received by nobody, can be called as a deadweight loss. Areas received by government shouldn't be included in deadweight loss. Okay, only those areas received by nobody can be called as a deadweight loss. So answer is D and F. Okay, so then where is the total surplus? So consumer surplus plus those areas taken by government is a BCE. Okay, these 3 items, okay, has it taken by government. And the area taken by producer. So A, B, C, E, G, okay, is the total surplus. Okay, D and F has gone. They just disappear. Okay, so far, any questions? Okay, this graph, this question basically show you guys, yeah, as a government, yeah, how you can reduce, yeah, how you can add some production restrictions for secret market. Yeah, you just add so-called per unit tax. Okay, if no questions, okay, let's take a closer look for taxation policy here. So I mean the total tax burden, the total tax revenue, okay, taken by government total is $60, right? And we learned the tax burden, right? Paid by consumer is $30. And the producer, the tax burden paid by producer is $30. So in this graph is super special. They share tax burden equally. Consumers and producers, they share tax burden. And exactly equally, you pay $30, I pay $30, yeah, totally we pay $60. Okay, so the conclusion we can make here is that we share tax burden equally. Consumers and producers, they share tax burden exactly equally. My question is why? My question is why they share tax burden equally? In what kind of situation maybe consumers pay more and the producers pay less? In what kind of situation they don't share tax burden equally? Any idea? Why in this graph, graphically speaking, why B and C, the area of B and C exactly equal to the area E? What is the reason? What is the reason, guess? Take a guess. Why they share tax burden equally in this graph? No idea. If somebody just take a guess why they share tax burden equally. Or in what kind of situation they don't share tax burden equally. No response. Last call. Last call. Any ideas? Okay, if no idea. Okay, let me tell you guys the answer. The answer is in this graph. In this graph, why this graph is super special? Because you guys can add a title for this graph. In this graph, ED equals to ES. So what is ED? Price elasticity of demand. What is ES? Price elasticity of a supply. You see, in this graph, ED greater equal to ES, the slope of your supply curve, I mean in terms of the absolute value, okay, the slope of your supply curve kind of roughly equal to the slope of the demand curve. Once again, in terms of the absolute value. Okay, so in using economic terms, I mean consumers and producers. Okay, they are equally sensitive. They are equally care about the price change. So ES equal to ED. So the slope of the supply curve equal to the slope of the demand curve. Okay, so you can get a graph, okay, in which B and C exactly equal to E. Okay, let's draw two more graphs to prove that what I said here, what I'm saying here is right. So let's draw next box. Let's go move on to next box. So let's draw same graph, but this time you just make your demand curve relatively like flatter. Because now we assume consumers they care more, they are more sensitive about price change. And then let's compare, okay, who bear more tax burden and who pay lesser quantity of a tax to government. So this time, just the same graph, okay, totally the same graph, but this time the only difference is this time I make my demand curve relatively flatter. Okay, I make my supply curve, relatively speaking, more steeper. Okay, I label this one by supply, this one's a D. Okay, so here is a E number 1. So price and how I add a tax into the graph again, I shift my supply curve to left. I label this one by supply plus a tax, all right? Just the same graph. Just the same graph, yeah. So here is a called E number 2. So after price quantity, same thing has been lowered. Okay, but the consumer prices are here. Yeah, producer prices are here. So here is a tax paid by consumer. Where's the tax paid by consumer? This is a really small square here. This is called the tax paid by consumer. Yeah. I know my graph is really ugly, yeah, but hopefully you can get the idea. Okay, now that you see the tax burden beared by consumer is relatively speaking is smaller. Okay, this is a tax paid by consumer. Where is a tax paid by producer? So this a bigger area, right? So this a bigger area is a red shaded area. Okay, this a red shaded area is a tax paid by producer. So which one is bigger? The red area is bigger than the blue area, right? So what is the conclusion we can make here? Who care more? Who cares more about price change? Okay, who pay smaller tax burden, right? In this graph, who care more about price change? Who is like more sensitive about price change? Consumers. Because we assume demand curve is more elastic. So consumers, they care more about price change, right? So their tax burden here is smaller. Relatively speaking, producers, they don't care about price change. So the supply curve is more steeper. So their tax burden is bigger than the tax burden paid by consumer. Okay, remember this conclusion. Okay, who care more about price change? Who pay lesser, like a smaller proportion of the total tax? So let's turn to the next page. What about this time I make my supply curve more flatter and the demand curve more steeper? Okay, let's try maybe the last graph of today's lecture. Exactly same graph, but this time I just make my supply curve, yeah, relatively speaking, is a very flat supply curve. Very flat supply curve. But I make my demand curve, relatively speaking, steeper. So supply and D. Okay. So this is the price before the tax. Okay, this is the quantity before the tax. The next step, let's add on the tax policy. And the label is S plus a tax. So you can find E number 2. Okay, and you find the corresponding price level and the quantity. So consumer prices are here. But don't forget, you need to add on your producer price. Okay. So let's compare. Okay, let's compare. Where is the tax burden paid by producer? So this part. Where is the tax burden paid by consumer? So the blue part, right? Do I need to add the labels for you guys? Okay, the blue area. Okay, tax paid by consumer. By consumers. Okay, and this part is a smaller part is a tax paid by producers. So which one is bigger, which one is smaller? So this time you see, yeah, for sure, 100%. You can tell the tax paid by producer is smaller than the tax burden paid by consumer. So we can get a same conclusion, right? So this time a producer, relatively speaking, producers, now they care more about price change. So the supply curve is more flatter. I guess there's a typo here. Yeah, this one is a supply. Okay, this one is a supply is relatively elastic. So tax paid by producer is smaller than the tax paid by customer. Okay. So for any questions? No questions? Okay, no questions. Okay, no questions. The last part. Okay, let's generalize our conclusion a little bit. Okay, so we did two graphs for number 1 and number 2 here, right? We just did two graphs for these two. So if ED greater than yes, this is your first graph. So our conclusion is from your graph, you can tell producers, they pay more and the consumers, they pay less, right? This is the first graph. We just did the second graph. We just finished the second graph. In second graph, you make your supply curve more flatter, but demand curve, relatively speaking, is steeper. Okay, so the conclusion we can get from the second graph is producers pay less. Okay, but the consumer, this time they pay more. Okay, but we didn't do the graphs for following statements here, but you can so you can understand like let's generalize our conclusion. What about imagine a situation in which demand curve they are perfectly inelastic. If the consumers they extremely care about price change. No, don't care about price change. I mean consumers they don't care about price change at all. Think about that, right? If you don't care about price change, you pay more tax. What about if you totally don't care about price changes? That means you need to pay all tax. You pay all tax. You bear all tax burden. You pay 100% of the total tax burden to a government. In that case, the producers pay no tax. But as a consumer, you pay all tax. Okay, by contrast, if you extremely care about price change, yeah, your demand curve is perfectly elastic. Think about that, right? U.S. smoker, you usually buy a lot of cigarettes. You're just a smoker, but someday you just heard, yeah, BC government will add taxes, high tax, heavy tax rate on cigarette products. What's your response? And you extremely care about the price. Okay, that means what's your response? You don't smoke anymore, right? You don't smoke. After you heard the BC government will add a taxation policy on cigarette products. If you extremely care about the price change, you don't smoke. Don't smoke anymore. So you pay no tax, right? Because you buy no products. You buy no cigarettes, you pay no tax. Okay, so same thing for producer. Okay, if you don't care about price, you don't care about price at all, you pay all tax. So typo here, you just cross out in here. Okay, if the supply curve is perfectly elastic, so you pay no tax. In that case, you produce no cigarettes, so you pay no tax. Okay, then we done. Then we finish the axis text analysis. Any questions? So far, any questions? So for no questions, let's assign some homework. Yeah, we just need to do some practical questions. The homework this week is yeah, this is here. Yeah. This one I guess it 2019 from B. Okay, first the homework is okay, it's a PDF on the PDF document, page 85. Yeah, page 85, question 2. Okay, this is the first homework, first question. And we need to do one more. Okay, the second question is okay on the PDF document, page 68. Page 68, question 3. Okay, just this two, I guess. Okay, homework this week. Yeah. Any questions? When you finish these two questions, maybe you can send me an email. Okay, so I can check your answers. Okay, so I can find out how I can improve your answers. Okay. Any questions? No questions? If a new question says it, yeah, that's it for this week. Yeah, see you guys next week. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can stay here. I'm happy to answer all your questions. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.